And I'm back. Okay, small update on my side of the woods. I finally figured out how Chica's wings are going to work. Did I actually do the Chica drawing yet? No, I have to start working on that. So just know that's happening in the background. I'm going to try to record some of that soon. Not gonna lie, I've been slacking off on my art a little bit, working on my writing. I don't want to be one of those people who goes, I have ADHD or I have OCD, when really they just can't pay attention and they're lazy, or they're just really into cleaning. Because it takes away from people with actual mental health issues, and that's really rude, you know what I mean? But I kind of do have a problem where I keep bouncing between projects because I can't focus on anything for too long, but then I'll get super hyper fixated on one thing for a long time. So that's why I am a little bit behind on that sort of stuff, but I will be getting back into art and stuff. Anyways, Bonnie time. This is the final Bonnie episode, and let's get back where we were last episode. So Jeremy, the spirit inside of Bonnie in this AU, parents were very young when they had him. And this resulted in, the death of Jeremy's mother. In the old version, Jeremy's father raised his son by himself. But I think I'm actually going to end up changing something after all. I think it would make more sense if a teenager who had a kid by mistake would be getting help from his family. And I feel like the added drama that the grandparents are, not happy about Jeremy existing and probably shitting on the now dead mother makes sense considering how people are. The whole point of all this in the old and new version is that Jeremy is typically unsupervised for long periods of time where he will wander off because his parents kind of don't pay attention to him because, well, to put it sadly and bluntly, unwanted. But it is a thing that does happen, so I am going to use that trope. That's why when Jeremy goes missing, his parents don't immediately report it, which ends up really hurting the other kids in the long run because Jeremy was the kids don't die one by one. The kids die in groups of two. Because Jeremy was a part of group one, and his parents didn't report anything, this ended up really hurting the other children because Jeremy's parents didn't report it, and then the other child that died the same day as Jeremy, their parents didn't even know that she was going to Freddy's, but that's more for Chica's video. And then the next batch of kids were Theodore and Frankie, aka the kids from the troubled household, like a foster family. So they weren't going to get properly reported either. Every single parent involved was kind of not paying attention to their kids or didn't know a lot about their kids' personal lives and their friends. This ended up slowing down the investigation enough to allow the whole week of death that happens that leads to the eventual hauntings in this version. Because you'd think in a society that has the stories of the past of what happened at Freddy Fazbear, people would pay attention to when their kids go missing a little bit closer, but there's a reason why I chose a little bit of a tragic backstory for every single kid, and it's this was the worst possible case scenario. It's almost like someone knew these kids well enough to know that their parents weren't going to notice them going missing before killing them, unlike William, who just yoinked a bunch of kids in the 80s when the world was far more trusting. But enough about the gruesome stuff. Let's get into what Jeremy is like personality-wise, because like I mentioned before, I want to put more of a focus on the fact that these aren't just placeholders. These were full-on characters, aka people who died. Children. Children are little people with their own little lives and such. Jeremy is suffering from middle child syndrome despite being the only child, in the sense where he is quiet, reserved, and often forgotten by his family. Jeremy himself is more of a follower than a leader, and often clings to more authoritative figures who give him the time of day. In the friend group, because we've already talked about Frankie and Theodore, Jeremy is closer to Theodore because Theodore is more quiet, he's the eldest, and he's the most responsible one. And due to his issues with his father, Jeremy kind of weirdly enough sees a kid who's only a few years older than him as kind of a pseudo father figure, or more of like a cool older brother, because his father figure acts more like an older brother than he really should. Jeremy is also the second youngest, meaning that he is a few years older than Frankie, but not by much. He really just kind of, when he's in the friend group, he mostly prioritizes his time following around Theodore and doing whatever Theodore wants, basically acting as Theodore's number two. Meaning that when he ends up inside of Bonnie, while some of the spirits end up conflicting with their programming's personalities, Jeremy actually blends very well into Bonnie's, and honestly, Bonnie's more violent outbursts and behavior is actually coming from Jeremy's spirit's influence, and that is because Jeremy, after suffering so much, is now dead, and he's not happy about it. He is generally very miserable in the sense that, like, the one good thing that us abused kids have to look forward to is that one day we get to grow up, move out, and form our own lives. And that was brutally taken away from him. And I mean brutally. Jeremy probably has the, let me think. If we exclude him, the one who shall not be spoken of at this moment, he probably has the second worst death of all the kids. To put it nicely, he left the world in a very rough state. I'll tell you who got the worst death in Chica's video. But to put it nicely, actually on second thought, let me finish up Jeremy's personality section real fast. Yeah, he gets along nicely with Frankie, although he finds Frankie a little bit too energetic for his liking. He likes people who are a little bit more calm and quiet, another reason why he attaches himself to Theodore. He's also best friends with Chica's spirit, who I will introduce properly in the next episode. And then there is him. Not going to get into him yet. And I guess that's all of Jeremy's friends, because Jeremy does not have a life outside of the Freddy Fazbear gang, aka the little kid group they're in. His death is honestly the saddest one out of all of them. I always feel bad about this one, even when I made it up when I was in middle school. If I had to pick my favorite kid, or the kid I would have saved the most, it probably would have been Jeremy, because on one hand, at least Theodore and Frankie have each other. In a way, they were never separated for long. But for Jeremy got screwed the second he came out of the womb, you know what I mean? His father was a teenager who was already kind of drinking and having some behavior problems, and then he has this kid attached to him now, and he's not happy about it, and he's just being like a shitty older brother. Imagine Michael Afton and how he treats his little brother. Except that's your dad, early 20s dad, and you're like an elementary school kid. It's not great. I think Jeremy is a cute little goober. Jeremy, I haven't drawn him yet, but Jeremy has little glasses. He's a real sweetheart. And they're very thick, round glasses, too. It's really sad how such a sweet kid would turn out so violent as a spirit, but you can't really blame him. Oh, and also, I remember I wrote an AU if they had survived into adulthood as a kid. Fun fact about Jeremy, he's technically my first gay OC, because if he had grown up, he would have found out he was gay and had a little crush on Theodore. I feel like that just makes it worse. I'm not trying to bury my gays, I swear. I don't know, it just feels really sad to say that, like, this poor kid who's been, going through, CA, ends up dying such a brutal death, especially. It's just really sad, actually. I might not even get into his death until Chica's videos come out. Yeah, anyways, this is Bonnie's full character sheet. After this, you'll see the full sheet on my Unveil account. See you next time. Bye-bye.